This video will show you how to replace the exhaust manifold on a Toyota Matrix. This will be located along the back side of your engine. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Now since we're going to be dealing with the exhaust, we need to make sure everything's cool to the touch before continuing on. We have hand and eye protection at all times. We're making our way along the back side of the engine. This is where we can see our exhaust manifold and our upstream O2 sensor. Now a quick note about this manifold, typically you will have heat shields, which will need to be removed prior to removing the hardware holding this in place. Both of ours are missing. Now we have to remove the upstream O2 sensor from our exhaust manifold. The exhaust manifold will typically have a shield around it. This is a little bit more exposed, but we're going to go ahead and follow this cable all the way up to its connector. Now in this area, we can see that we do have a locking tab, so you're going to want to try to squeeze that in, and we can disconnect this. After that, we're removing that sensor from the exhaust pipe itself. That connector looks good. I don't see any corrosion. We're going to double check the other side as well. Let's go ahead and start removing that sensor from the exhaust manifold. Now for this, we have to have an O2 sensor socket. You can also use a wrench, but the socket works best. Now there's our socket. Thoroughly inspect your O2 sensor. If it looks like it's damaged, replace it. With the O2 sensor out of the way, the next thing we're going to do is focus on our mounting hardware that holds our exhaust manifold to our downpipe. Now for this, what you're going to find is you have hardware that makes its way from the bottom up through the pipe into the top area here. On the exhaust manifold, on the original one, I can see that I have a mounting nut here. So I'm going to hold this mounting nut using a 14mm, and then we'll be removing the rest of the mounting hardware from the bottom. We'll start with this one over here. Let's pause under the hood and make our way safely under the vehicle. Now under this area, we can see our vehicle's subframe, we have our sway bar, and our exhaust. Go ahead and follow that exhaust up towards where our spring bolt is located. I can see my wrench up there, it's nice and shiny. I'm using a 17mm for my spring bolt head. Almost there. Got a little rust here. Very common. Now your new manifold did come with a new hardware kit, so just a quick inspection of this and we'll set it aside for recycling. Now you've seen one, go ahead and do the exact same thing for the other. The other side, I got my wrench up there. Now that we have both of those bolts out, we're going to make our way along the forward side of the subframe. Now we can see our passenger side front axle. Make your way directly up above this along the rear of the engine, and here's where we can see our exhaust manifold bracket. Now we only need to remove the one mounting bolt down in this area, holding the exhaust manifold bracket to the bracket attached to the engine itself. We'll be using a 14mm. Now just a quick note on my application, my bracket is actually rotted off, so once I do remove this bolt, the bracket's going to come off. Yours should stay attached. We got a lot of rust on that, and as I mentioned, my bracket is rotted. This should be attached to my pipe. Let's just go ahead and inspect this mounting bracket down here and our mounting hardware. We can pause underneath the vehicle and we're making our way back up into the engine compartment. Now as for this upper hardware, we want to be careful not to break it, especially the studs leading into the engine. Go ahead and heat up the hardware as necessary and of course use penetrant. Now we can see that we have 5 12mm mounting nuts holding this manifold in place. Now there are studs as well. We don't need to do anything with the studs, an exception of just a quick inspection once we have everything apart here. So let's start removing our mounting nuts. Okay, let's see if I can get this one. There's that one. Let's make our way over. We got that one out. Let's move along. Now that we have both of those out, let's save the center for last. I'm going to make my way to the outer portion of this manifold on the opposite side and make my way towards the center. Make our way all the way out here. Let's get this next one here. On to the last mounting nut here directly in the center. Now keep in mind this is the last thing holding the manifold in place. Now we can take hold of that manifold. We should be able to move it around, lift it up and out of the engine compartment. There it is, friend. Now with that manifold off of there, we can remove our gasket as well. Go ahead and set that aside. Prior to installation of any brand new part, of course we need to make sure we clean and inspect our mounting surface. We're going to start up at the engine where the manifold was bolted onto. Now we can see all of our mounting studs. We need to make sure each one of those are in good usable order, not rotted, weak, or damaged. Aside from that, we also need to clean down the engine where the gasket and the manifold will sit. For this, you can use a sanding block and some fine sandpaper. Okay, so at this point, obviously it's your vehicle. Clean it to the best of your abilities. The cleaner, the less chances you're going to have a leak. Now the next thing we need to do is clean each one of the 4 ports leading into the engine, making sure no miscellaneous debris makes its way in. Now that we have this upper area cleaned, we also need to make sure that we clean our pipe, so let's make our way down there next. Down here, I'm just using a wire brush. We're paying attention in the flange area of our lower exhaust pipe. Now we can see that I do still have some of my pre-existing gasket in this area. We want to try to remove as much of that as possible so we can have a good seat of our brand new gasket. Now some good news about this flange in particular, you do not need to worry about the outer aspect aside from just making sure it's not rotted or weak. Just in here is what matters as far as sealing the exhaust. Now we can prepare to install our brand new exhaust manifold. We can see where the ports are. We're going to lay this down. Now this area would be what would be considered the forward side of the manifold, out towards your radiator. Let's go ahead and remove this shield. To do this, we're going to remove all 3 of our 12mm mounting bolts so we can remove the shield. Remove the shield and the bolts. We'll set them aside. We will be using these. Let's remove the 19mm headed plug from our upstream O2 sensor port. Go ahead and remove that protective plug and that small gasket. We'll set that aside. You can dispose of that. Over at the vehicle, the first thing we have to do is install our manifold gasket on the engine. Let's make sure we have it in the proper orientation so the studs will fit through each one of their corresponding holes. Now as we bring this into position, we have our brand new gasket that slides directly onto the lower flange of the brand new manifold. We're going to have to hold that in position as we carefully make our way down along the back side of the engine. Now that I have this down in here, I'm going to attempt to align it with my studs. With that resting on the studs, let's continue on with all 5 of our mounting nuts. We're going to start all of them on there, and then we'll start snugging and torquing them in a specific sequence. The next one on here. This one's a little bit harder to gain access to, just right in the center. Now we can start snugging and torquing our mounting nuts. We'll make our first sequence snugging them. We're starting from the center and we'll make our way outward. After that, we can continue on to torquing them, and we'll be torquing them in the same sequence to 22 foot-pounds. I'm just going to use a ratcheting wrench in the center here. Now we went through, we snugged each and every one of the mounting bolts. We're going to start in the center. As I mentioned, the torque would be 22 foot-pounds. Now looking at this center piece of mounting hardware, there's minimal area to be able to gain access with a torque wrench. So we're going to make sure that it's properly snugged. For this, I'm just going to continue on with my wrench here. We want to gently start squeezing in on that gasket to help prevent any exhaust leaks from this area. After you've torqued these, just go ahead and make a second pass. Now it's time for that outer shield. We can go ahead and get this in place. We're going to bring it down along the rear of the engine. We'll align the mounting points with that manifold and start in all 3 of our brand new mounting bolts. Double check to make sure that's secured so you don't have any rattling coming from your heat shield. Let's continue on with the O2 sensor. Now when we go to install the upstream O2 sensor, you're going to find that I have anti-seize on the threaded portion here. We want to make sure we don't have any on the sensing agent. Now with that said, let's carefully get this in place in the manifold. As I attempt to screw this in, I'm making sure that I am not causing any damage to my wiring. This is extremely important. Now that I have that O2 sensor started in, I'm going to snug it up and then torque it to 33 foot-pounds. Now it's time for that electrical connector. We're going to line up our locking tabs. We'll press this in, listen for a click here. Now after that audible click, we'll give it a tug to make sure it's secured in place. Just double check to make sure the wire isn't hanging down in an area that might potentially get damaged in any way. Now we're under the front of the vehicle. We want to pay attention to our mounting bracket mounting bolts. Now in your kit, you're going to find it came with 2 bolts and 4 washers. 2 of the washers are flat washers, the other 2 are black and they're locking washers. So we're going to take a locking washer and slide it over our bolt. After that, the flat washer. Do the same to both bolts, and then we'll continue on with our mounting bracket on that manifold itself. Now when we bring this in position, we're going to start in the upper mounting bolt, and then we're going to make our way to the bottom area of the bracket. We'll start in that bolt as well. Now at this point, both of these mounting bolts are started in. We need to make sure that we can still gain access to our third mounting bolt port directly in this area. You can make adjustments to the bracket as necessary. We can't install this bolt yet because we won't be able to tighten the upper bolt due to the shield. So once we do have access to that mounting bolt port, I'm going to hold it in this position, and then we'll snug up this upper bolt. Just need to make sure we can see that bolt hole. Just make sure that's nice and tight. Let's get that next bolt in there. At this point, both bolts holding the bracket to that manifold are tight. One last bolt here. All three bolts are tight here. Now it's time to install the flange bolts. So now as far as that flange, we need to take one of our brand new springs and we're going to slide it over our spring bolt. You're going to do this for each side of the flange. Start them both in, then we'll snug them up. After they're both snug, you're going to torque them to 32 foot-pounds. I've got it started in, so I'm just going to use my ratchet here just a couple turns. I still want to leave it loose. Once they're started in, we can go ahead and snug them up and then torque them to 32 foot-pounds. Now one last quick inspection, and we can make our way out from under the vehicle. Okay friend, we finished our installation. Now the next thing you have to do is make your way into the passenger compartment. You're going to start the vehicle and let it run. Make sure there's no check engine light, no running condition, and no exhaust leak. After that, go ahead and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.